When you think about influential rhythm games, what's the first video game that comes to mind? Dance Dance Revolution? Osu? Step Mania?
Love to do. Oh!
You know what? Maybe Step Mania. But if you saw the title of this video, you already know what we're gonna discuss. The rhythm game that inspired a new generation of games that used plastic peripherals that made you feel like you were in your own band. We are talking about Guitar Freaks. Guitar Freaks was a Konami arcade game back in 1999 that utilized a guitar-looking controller to simulate what a real guitar felt like. This game is played by hitting notes that are scrolling through a highway and strumming the corresponding button when it reaches your strike line. You can even wail your guitar by tilting the controller while playing the note associated with it. It was just simple. Then a company by the name of Red Octane liked this idea so much that they wanted to bring the plastic guitar controller to wider audiences and more home entertainment systems. So they grabbed Harmonix, who worked on many rhythm games like Amplitude, to help make the game series we know as Guitar Hero. The first game released in November 2005 for the PlayStation 2 and featured a guitar controller that had 5 fret buttons, a strum bar, and a whammy bar for making those sounds. As far as gameplay goes, it was much more complex than Guitar Freaks. The main difference being the inclusions of Star Power, which doubled your score multiplier and can be activated by tilting your guitar or pressing the select button, the whammy button, which distorted sustains and gained extra star power in a sequence, and a new hammer-on and pull-off mechanic that better simulated a real electric guitar. Top that off with a setlist of some amazing rock tracks at the time, and you had an instant classic. It was so much of an instant classic that they decided to make another game. Then another game. Then Activision and Neversoft took over, making another game, and you get the idea. Each sequel refined the controls a bit more and added features and songs that would make the game stand out more to people. But behind the scenes, Vicarious Visions, who were part of Activision at the time, wanted to see if a Guitar Hero game could even work on a handheld console. Not to be confused with the mobile versions of the game. Vicarious wanted to make a Guitar Hero game that was actually polished and had the same impact as when you were playing on console. So they decided that the Nintendo DS would be perfect for this. To make this possible, they designed many prototypes and invited many expert Guitar Hero players to playtest it over the span of a year. And all of those months led to the final product of the Guitar Grip, an exclusive controller for Guitar Hero on Tour for the Nintendo DS, releasing on June 22, 2008, which was the first game in the series to be rated everyone 10 and up. The Guitar Grip connected to the GBA port at the bottom of the DS with 4 fret buttons. The game was advertised as if you could play air guitar, but outdoors in public for everyone to witness. But were these games actually good to play? Was it really a polished game? In this video, we'll see if the Guitar Hero On Tour series for the Nintendo DS followed its promise to be as good as the console versions. Unlike other games, Guitar Hero On Tour was packaged in a box and sold with the one peripheral you needed to play the game. It also came with a guitar pick-shaped stylus to help you strum. You could put your hand through the strap and hold it as if it was a guitar neck. This thing was an absolute necessity, and there was no other way around it. It was packaged ideally for the Nintendo DS Lite, but the box did come with a removable attachment that could also connect to the original DS. The box also came with stickers, which I lost, so let's just pretend it's there, the instruction manual, and the game itself enclosed in a small case. When you start the game, you're greeted with ways to play the game more comfortably. And for the love of God, please take the screen seriously, because you're gonna run into problems where you try to look at the screen, but you have to move your wrist in the most uncomfortable positions to get a good view, but you strain your wrist and now you can't see, so you have to raise your elbow, and it's just a whole ordeal. But we see some splash screens and we're in the main menu. There's not a lot here. Even in the settings, it's pretty bare bones. There's just options for microphone sensitivity and lefty flip, which is pretty nice. And I have to admit this, but I am using an emulator to capture this game. Because, let's face it, looking at this the whole time wouldn't be enjoyable for you. There's a video by A Wise Moose, a known member of the Guitar Hero community, that shows how to play these games on PC if you have a plastic guitar laying around. So if you want to know how I'm even showing gameplay, this is the reason. But when we look at the single player options, there's career, guitar duels, quick play, practice mode, and tutorials. Pretty consistent with any of the console versions of Guitar Hero. But let's get started with career mode. What's my band name?
Plumps.
You can then select your guitarist and their guitar. Then you're put into a tutorial, which reminds you to secure your guitar grip to play. Because if it's even slightly loose, then you get this screen. And trust me, this isn't the last time you'll be seeing this screen. And it's not like you can reconnect the guitar grip and keep playing. You have to turn off the DS, plug the grip back in, restart the game, and go all the way back to where you were. It's very annoying, and one of the reasons why you might not want to play this game. But when it comes to strumming and actually playing notes, it doesn't feel that bad. Just like the console games, you have to hold down a fret button and strum to play a note. But here, you gotta strum by swiping on the touchscreen horizontally. Pressing the buttons doesn't feel too bad, but strumming is super awkward and there's no feedback to know if you did a strum. So if you wanted to make your own feedback, you'd have to swipe on the touchscreen hard and quickly if you wanted some sort of responsiveness. If you wanted to strum a bunch of fast notes, then you can scrub the touchscreen back and forth as if you were left strumming and right strumming. But you need to be very consistent to do this properly. And to whammy while you're holding long notes or sustains, you have to scrub the screen as if you were strumming multiple times. But don't get too carried away or else you could lose your note streak by overstrumming. Then to activate star power, you'd have the option to press select, the face or D-pad buttons, tap on the star power meter on the touchscreen, or yell into the microphone.
They hit the Pentagon! Woo!
But you select your difficulty, and just like that, you're on your way to play your first gig. When you play career mode, your end goal is to get tons of music sponsors for money, put out some sick cover tracks, and go from venue to venue to become the best band anybody has ever seen. So a pretty basic premise, nothing too exciting, like having your manager be the devil and having to duel him when he gets too greedy. But every time you do complete a tier list, you get reviews for the 5-song album you put out. I thought the light bulb was great, but when I bought the CD, I felt pretty silly. Thomas Edison. I will say this though, during gameplay, the game actually feels like a Guitar Hero game. The visuals on the left side of the screen would be what you actually saw in the console versions, with some of the minor details too. Your band looked like they were playing their parts, albeit a little robotic. Note streak and star power notifications would pop up, and camera changes were dependent to the song. On the touchscreen, you had a picture of the guitar you were using, the rock meter, score and multiplier, note streak, and the star power meter. The difficulties even felt like they were scaled properly. Easy used 3 frets and had the least amount of notes. Medium used all 4 frets with slightly more notes. Hard added even more notes. And Expert added the most amount of notes that was pretty close to what you were playing on a real guitar. So the DS really had all the features expected from the console version. Nothing in terms of the gameplay was cut out. Guitar Hero on the DS made sure to let the gameplay and the song selection do the talking. The only thing that needed improvement was how some parts didn't make sense at all. I mean, if you've played Guitar Hero before, you know this can't be possible. And by the time you play a single song, you might notice your wrist locking up. That, my friend, is the Guitar Hero DS effect. No matter how you play the game for how long, you'll always get the feeling that your wrist is about to fall apart. It's just so uncomfortable and impossible to find a good position. It's not that severe with the plastic guitar. So while people were showing off FCs of 1 and Through the Fire and Flames on console, I got Carpal Tunnel. When it comes to the song selection, there's a total of 26 songs, with 5 songs being available for each tier list and 1 unlockable bonus song. With the songs themselves being a good representation of iconic rock songs that have challenging guitar sections. Overall, the song selection seems to be pretty balanced. But let me tell you, these songs get hard. You get to experience more guitar solos as you go down the list, which uses more hopo and alt strumming patterns. And when you get to I Don't Wanna Stop by Ozzy Osbourne, the developers forgot you were on the DS and gave you something that looks like it was straight out of the console version. Like, what the hell was that? It's nice to know that the developers didn't want to make a portable version and have it be an easier way to play the game. But also, screw you. If you're targeting this game for kids that have 4th grade reading levels, what makes you think they can comprehend this? There's another game mode here called Guitar Duels, which makes you go through the whole song list against a computer player. It acts similarly to Guitar Hero 3's duel system, but is less complex. To win, you just have to get a higher score than your opponent after the song ends. And to do that, both of you get access to some power-ups that'll attack the other player or protect yourself from incoming attacks. To get these power-ups, you'd have to play a battle sequence similar to star power sequences without missing or overstrumming. You can only use these on your opponent one at a time. But some of these power-ups include broken strings, making you have to draw a line from one end of the string to the other to fix it, pyrotechnics, causing you to blow out your guitar to continue playing, or bomb notes, which randomly spawns bombs on notes that you have to avoid strumming on. There were other power-ups that were self-explanatory, like speeding your opponent's highway, muting the whole song, raising the difficulty, stealing from your opponent, ruining a fan's prized possession, extra protection, cross-eyed mode, and pretty much a flashbang. and the most broken power-up being difficulty down. When you use this power-up, your difficulty is lowered, and the score seems to adjust for this since you'd probably be playing less notes. But for some reason, the score balance is never accurate, so you could get more points on a section that was lowered on an easier difficulty that has an equal amount of notes when playing regularly. On top of that, when the CPU uses it, they almost always do worse than you, giving you an easy win. But after beating every song on Guitar Duel, you get the only unlockable bonus song, I Am Not Your Game Boy by Freeze Pop. Get it? Cause we're on Nintendo. Game Boy. Ugh. And with that, we have all 26 songs unlocked in the game. But there's more. These 26 songs are the full setlist for the North American version of the game. Guitar Hero On Tour was the first game in the series to have region-specific songs, and it made it so that you cannot play all the available songs in the game. And it's a shame too, because the European version had some fun and challenging songs, like Europe's Rock the Night. And if you know the song, it really shouldn't be in the 4th tier of the game. It was a weird decision to make, especially on the DS. You could also play local multiplayer by connecting to another DS that had the game. You could play game modes such as Face-Off, Pro Face-Off, Co-op, and then Guitar Duels, which is what you'd expect to see in the console games. But that's Guitar Hero On Tour. It's a really good experience for a Guitar Hero game, considering it's on a portable device. It's not a perfect game though. Some charts had questionable note placements, star power phrases were all over the place, and you could only play the bass charts in practice mode. It played like a portable version of Guitar Hero 3, but aimed for a younger audience, which is a good thing. But it does have the Shrek song, so that's infinitely better.
You'll never know if you don't go.
Then we have the next game in the series, Guitar Hero On Tour Decades, which was released on November 14th, 2008, nearly 5 months after the previous game. Apparently, the reason for this short release gap was to match the amount of content the first 2 DS games gave to the console version of a single Guitar Hero game, making the game feel more of an expansion than a sequel. And because of that, the game started to release versions with and without the guitar grip, so you wouldn't have to pay extra. But I ended up buying the one with the guitar grip anyways. Inside the box is the same as usual, but this time comes with a skin that you can put on your guitar grip. And here we have Guitar Hero On Tour Decades. Doesn't look too different from the last game. But now in single player, you only have career and quick play. And in the quick play option, you can choose to either play in lead guitar, bass or rhythm, or in Guitar Duels with any song. But career mode is sort of the same. My band name this time? Sure, why not? Even my manager thinks it's a good name. In this game, you're invited to the Rock the Decades Festival, and you have to go through each venue, starting from the modern times all the way to the 70s. You have 2 new characters, a buttload of guitars and outfits you can unlock, and you can choose to play in 3 types of careers. The songs you play in each venue all came out in whatever decade you're playing, and every time you complete the first 4 songs in a venue, you can decide to play an encore, where the game immediately puts you to the next song, a feature that wasn't implemented properly in the previous game. You even get reviews from fans who watched your show. Boobies thrills crowd beyond their wildest dreams. Boobies knows how to put on a show. I did not believe in perfection. Then I saw boobies. I'm so confused. But as you go through venue to venue, coordinator to coordinator, you start to realize that the song list's difficulty is jumbled up, meaning that the songs didn't get harder as you played through the game, but it felt like the game got harder when you unlocked the last song in each tier list, then easier again when you unlocked a new venue. It didn't feel like you were naturally progressing, and that's because of this weird decade tier list. And you can't just have the songs in the 70s be the hardest songs in the game. That just wouldn't make sense. The song list itself wasn't too bad, maybe a little weaker than the previous game, but still a good selection. There's also songs that were definitely harder than the previous game, with guitar solos that were— holy crap, what do I even do here? Once you go through the game once, you unlock We Are the Champions by Queen, your first out of 3 victory songs. To unlock the other 2, you had to play career mode again, this time playing in bass or rhythm guitar and in Guitar Duels. The next 2 songs you unlock are Smooth Criminal by Not Michael Jackson and Satch Boogie, one of the hardest songs in Guitar Hero World Tour before it even released. But in the European release, Satch Boogie was in the 80s tier of the game, not a bonus song, and the difficulty of the chart was lowered to match the tier they're in. It's the only song in the game that does this, and it's so weird to see one of the hardest songs in the game be dumbed down. Speaking of the European release, 7 of these songs were region exclusive, which included Survivor's Eye of the Tiger and Oasis's Some Might Say. The European version replaced the songs that I liked listening to, but I really enjoyed playing these songs more than the songs in the North American release. Multiplayer in this game offered a new feature too, where you can share songs with somebody who had the previous game. So you and a buddy can play up to 54 songs across both games. That's a really nice feature to have to widen the amount of people you play with, but other than that, nothing else was added. Of course, there were some cosmetic and aesthetic changes, but everything else remained the same. This game was pretty much an expansion to the previous game, but it also had the Weezer song, so that means it's a perfect game. That brings us to the next game in the series, Guitar Hero On Tour Modern Hits, released on June 9th, 2009, another 5 to 6 month release gap. This time putting an emphasis on the new and current songs at the time. Again, you open up the box and it contains everything you'd expect by now. But the game starts again and it's the same old song and dance. This time, Quick Play makes all the songs available to you right off the bat. The game's setlist consisted of mostly modern songs that were released from 2000 to 2008. And I gotta say, this has to be the weakest and least diverse setlist out of the 3 games. There was more of a pop-punk or indie vibe with the setlist, with a few exceptions of metal like Atreyu or Black Tide. I don't hate it. I like some of these songs, but most of these songs sounded or played similarly to each other. And there weren't a lot of tracks that had guitar riffs that stood out or made me feel like a Guitar Hero. It was just rhythm strumming. Rhythm strumming here, fast strumming there, my wrist is already about to fall off, don't add my arm to the chopping block. But surprisingly, the songs were more difficult. The rhythm strumming made you really pay attention at times. And songs with guitar solos caught me off guard and made me learn how to read some new hopo patterns. The songs were definitely harder, but this was rhythm strumming the game. There was a lack of variety in terms of song type, and that made the game less enjoyable for me. When it came to career mode, there was a huge overhaul. Band name, Dirt. You choose your character, meet your manager, and the goal of the game is to get as many fans as you can. That's it. And to do that, you not only had to play some songs in a venue, but you can also do fan requests, which are challenges tied to a specific song and instrument. These challenges include getting a certain note streak, clearing a certain amount of star power phrases, getting a certain score multiplier, or hitting a certain percent of notes in a song. With some of these fan requests, you have to complete them with an additional modifier that either made it more fun or challenging to play, such as playing the song without strumming, only strumming, or my personal favorite, with bomb notes. This one made you really pay attention to the chart and made for some really fun playthroughs. You can even have fan requests for guitar duels, which kind of breathed new life into this game mode because I was already getting tired of playing it over and over again. Completing career mode doesn't get you a bonus song, but instead a golden skin for all characters, which is just a lot worse than a song. But don't worry, if you put in the effort to complete every fan request and get 100% in the game, you get rewarded with something even better. Something that should give anybody an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. You get the illustrious Golden Record. The European version had 12 unique songs that replaced other songs in the North American release. I can't comment much about it, but having Scream, Aim, Fire, and Shockwave be in different regions is a crime. Both songs are insanely difficult, and I would have loved them to be available to everybody. Other than that, everything was sort of the same. Only a few things were added. You got 2 new characters, new camera angles for songs, and new character animations. But those changes really didn't matter now. Everything else was pretty much the same. The one good thing I can say about this game is that it introduced me to some new bands and songs that I like to listen to today, but not so much play in the Guitar Hero game. But it does have Paralyzer by Finger 11, so it's basically a perfect game. And those are all the Guitar Hero games exclusive to the DS. The whole On Tour series was designed to be a trilogy from the start that would only be available for the Nintendo DS. And looking back, the games had a good start, introducing a AAA game to portable, less powerful game consoles. But as the series went on, they started pushing songs that were either more popular or more recent that younger audiences at the time could relate to. The sequels were basically expansions by how quickly they were released in a small period of time. However, Vicarious Visions didn't stop there. On November 3rd, 2009, they released a port of Band Hero, a spin-off of the Guitar Hero games, about 5 months after Modern Hits was released. This time with the promise of being able to play on drums or vocals. And to prove that, the box the game came with not only had your guitar grip, but also a drum sleeve that you can put around your DS so you can play drums. When you start the game, you're asked to name your band. And this time, you can customize your own rocker that you can use to play any instrument. You also have all the characters from the Guitar Hero On Tour series. But why would you play as them when you can play as 4 monstrosities? There isn't a career mode anymore, instead being replaced with an award system that can unlock more cosmetics for your own rockstar or venues you can play in. But that's all it really gives you. But you can also unlock Cthulhu as a secret character for some ungodly reason. Before you play a song, you get to choose your instrument, select which difficulty you want to play in, with an option to play in beginner, which replaces every note with a bar note. And you can select your venue and a playlist of up to 3 songs. When you actually play the game, oh boy, it feels a lot better than the previous DS games. On the left side of the screen, you have a slightly transparent highway, along with your rock meter, score multiplier, and star power meter. This change is a lot better since you didn't have to constantly avert your attention to check your score or see if your star power is ready. On the touchscreen, you only had a set of strings, and at the top of it, you had your score in the middle and star power on the top left side. Finally, on the top right, you had something called stage stunts. When it flickers, you can tap on the icon to perform a stage stunt. These are small mini-games during the song that are meant to give you more star power and a score bonus if you succeed. Some of these include saving a roadie from the crowd, smashing a speaker with your guitar, or accidentally high-fiving a fetus. If you fail a stage stunt, then you lose a bar of rock meter and lose your note streak. These are completely optional though, and you can perform them multiple times in one song. But if you fail a song, it doesn't immediately end on the spot. You can keep playing the song until the end if you want to hear it play out. But no matter how good you play after, it'll still count as a failed song. In terms of character animations, they seem to be taken from Guitar Hero World Tour and above. The characters actually looked like they were playing their parts properly and didn't look as robotic. But the character models themselves were— oh no, please don't hurt me. I mentioned that you can play drums and vocals as well, but to do that, you had to restart the game without the guitar grip plugged in. But if you wanted to switch back to play in guitar mode, then you can't just insert the guitar grip while the game is running. So you'd have to restart the game again, making sure the guitar grip is inserted before the DS is powered. Playing on the included drum skin felt super stiff to me. It didn't feel satisfying hitting any of the silicone pads, and most of the time, I would just play without it for a more responsive feeling. But I'm so glad I got to play the drums on the DS, because the charts were an amazing challenge, and some sections even let you do your own drum fills. Vocals are what you'd expect. You can either sing into the microphone to match the song's pitch, but I always turned it on beginner difficulty and placed my thumb over the microphone, just like a true vocalist. The song selection here is surprisingly not that bad. There's a total of 30 songs that consisted mostly of pop music, but here I can't really complain anymore. I can't explain it, but these songs were very fun to play with any instrument. It's not that the charts were super accurate, but each song was fun in their own way, no matter how difficult they were. Speaking of difficulty, this game might have the most difficult charts out of the 4 DS games. Some songs have difficult strumming sections like Excuse Me Mister by No Doubt, or hard to read hammer-ons and pull-offs like in You Better Pray by the Jumpsuit Apparatus. And the drums, oh my goodness, the drums. I swear, the drum charts in this game were ahead of its time. You'll be mashing your buttons non-stop, and it'll make you think about doing the stage stunts just to get a short break. But it is so worth it when you consider how much of the game actually changed. You can finally play extended sustain notes, some bass charts had open notes, star power could be activated after hitting one phrase and it can overlap other star power sequences. The gameplay and the mechanics had to match that of the console version, and it just feels so good to play this game. When it comes to the European release, a whopping 15 out of the 30 songs are region specific. That's half of the full set list you're missing because of what region you live in. These songs are pretty good too. Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz, Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz, even Grace Kelly by Mika. These songs were a blast to play, and I'm kinda bummed I missed out on some good songs. Multiplayer worked similarly to the previous games, but this time you only had 2 different modes to play with. But it's still the same. There's another mode in this game called Fan Requests, which makes you connect to the Wii version of the game, and you could do more challenges to unlock more cosmetics, but I'm not even gonna try with that. The point is, these games are just so fun to play. These versions existed because Guitar Hero became so mainstream to people all over the world. One company decided to take an ambitious task and make this game series portable. And to their credit, I think it worked pretty well. Okay, was it super awkward to play? Yes. Did all the charts make sense at times? Not really. But these games actually felt like you were playing Guitar Hero on the go. And that's something I think should have more recognition. A separate controller didn't have to be made for a handheld port of Guitar Hero, and because of this grip, a lot of people refer to these games as the one that really wrecked your hands for the wrong reasons. But for what it's worth, I still think this was the best way a Guitar Hero game could be ported to smaller consoles. How do you take this and put it into this, and have it play almost identically? It was just unheard of at the time. Sure, some of the charts were questionable early in the series, and the song choice focused less on the guitar as newer games released, but goddamn, was it just fun to play the game. I think the 3 Guitar Hero On Tour games were a good testing ground of what was possible, and the release of Band Hero was the best thing that could have ever happened to the series on the DS. The charts in this game were some of the hardest ever on the DS, and it's because of this game that I can read patterns like this, or even this. It made me want to be better at the game and try the console version when I eventually got the chance. And although it wasn't a real Guitar Hero game, the inclusion of drums and vocals made sense to the DS. But it's too bad that the best game in the DS series would be its last after a lifespan of just a year and a half. It was truly a unique experience, and I'm really happy I was able to play it when I had the chance. Even though my wrist is now severely damaged and can no longer bend properly, I'm still happy. If you made it this far, then thank you for watching. This game series means a lot to me, because it made me want to play more Guitar Hero or Rock Band and become better at the game. Let me know in the comments what your first experience was with the DS series, or share how you even got to know about Guitar Hero in the first place. Leave a like, comment below, and subscribe for more videos in the future. Anyway, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.